Hello everyone, welcome to Untether.tv. This is where we get inside the business of mobile. We have great casual conversations with mobile rock stars, and this is another in my series, my year-long series of looking at what the impact of mobile is going to be on certain segments of our economy and certain segments of our life, and how we're going to interact with this. And I think no other segment is more ripe for mobile to be brought in than retail. And we've seen this in Apple stores. If you've ever walked into an Apple store and you're served by somebody who is not behind the cash, that's really just the beginning of what we're talking about. And there's going to be such a massive impact that mobile is going to have on retail. And I just really want to understand what that means, not only from a customer-facing side, but from a merchandising side, from a POS, from a sales, credit card transactions, all those things. So relevant. We're going to be seeing this crop up now, faster and faster, certainly in 2011 and 2012. And I'm very interested in exploring this, and I hope you are with me as well. And to that, very excited to have the VP of Business Development for Global Bay, Harlan Eplan, who is in New York City and is here to talk to us and help us really understand what is going to happen in the retail industry as a result of mobile, because obviously Global Bay is right in the middle of all of this with their products. And also, we're going to get into a little bit of forward thinking to understand what is coming down the road. What are the things that are going to work, and really, can retailers succeed without using mobile? So Harlan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight into this great, exciting and great industry.
Great, thanks for having me.
Well, again, my pleasure. I don't know that a lot of people know about the company, about Global Bay, because this is such a relatively new space. So why don't you give a little bit of insight, a little background about what Global Bay is, the products that you provide, the services that you provide, maybe even some of the customers. But start with that first snapshot of who you guys are.
Sure. The company was founded 8 years ago and focused on mobile enablement of systems for pushing out information to field workers, people in the field. And this was the day, this goes way back into the days of Palm OS devices, no wireless connectivity. This was really the old sync where you put your device in the cradle and you push the button, and and it was an offline type of experience. And so you were limited by the device power and what you could do. And so Global Bay specialized in being able to push and pull data in and out of an enterprise. About 2 years ago, we migrated the company to focus and take our software platform fully on into the retail environment, deciding that focusing on one vertical would really be beneficial to the company. We're a 45-person company, and it would be the best way to kind of grow the company.
Can I interrupt for 1 second there, Harlan? What was that? So you went from field force workers out on the street, basically,
right,
into retail. Was there something that tweaked you about retail, or was it just?
Well, it's ironic is that when we looked at the verticals that we thought about going after for mobilizing, retailers have, and have for a long time, had mobile applications in the stores, heavy scanner-based technologies,
sure,
symbol, intermec that they would go out and they do their work with. So we always assumed that retail would not be an industry that would be very big for us because it was already mobilized. But what we found is that they had done mobile 1.0. They had gone and done mobile, but it was green screen, old school type of technology, right, both handheld and both software. And it wasn't very compelling to the worker or even to the retailer. It did a basic function. So what's happened is the retailers are now looking at better devices, like you're seeing with the Apple Store, lower cost devices, better networks, and more opportunity to push to a worker who's capable of using this technology and interested in using the technology. If you think about old stylus-based handhelds, and now we're talking about a finger-based, intuitive type of GUI, type of user interface, that's where we've headed. And so what we've been able to do is come into the retail environment in a different way and offer retailers a mobile platform for extending all of their systems. And so we kind of are unique in this space. There isn't anyone in the retail space that is going to market focused solely on in-store apps and enabling back-end systems and pushing them out to the workers.
Okay, so I mean, it just seemed when you looked at the industries that you were about to dive into, it seems to me like field force automation or even invoicing or real-time payments out on the field would have been a good spot to be as well. But you're right. When you look at the innovation that's happening, certainly the last couple of years in this space, you guys certainly made the right choice. And it's probably, as you said, very, very competitive in the other space because there's a lot of big players in
Sure.
that space. So find a niche, find an upcoming industry and be the king in that industry ultimately was the plan.
Exactly. So we just recently came out of the National Retail Federation show in New York, which is the big show everyone attends from retail technology. And we were really the only pure play mobile software company there. A lot of people are showing mobile as an extension of their software because they have POS systems or merchandising systems, loss prevention, so on and so forth. But we're one of the few agnostic ones that say we'll work with whatever your backend is, and we can help you support today's devices, but we can also help you tomorrow when it's an Android device or an Android tablet. We can do that as well. So we're offering retailers a different way to look at mobile. And our vision is that if you look at what has happened in retail technologies over the last 50 years, there hasn't been a lot of innovation over the last 10 years or 15 years in particular. The last big thing to happen was the web, right? Web commerce, websites. Everybody all of a sudden realized they had to have a website. They didn't know what it was going to mean for their business, but they knew they needed it. Mobile is really the next channel that has been launched or that is now out in the marketplace. And people are scrambling to figure out, how do I take advantage of this both in the store as well as in terms of quote-unquote m-commerce or pushing out information to the proliferation of smartphones that have occurred in the marketplace.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it that we're seeing this a lot. Obviously, this is the rush that we experienced in the late 90s and early 2000 about the
Absolutely.
web, right? And it's still in that everybody's literally throwing things against the wall to see what sticks in this industry. And
Exactly.
you guys have picked a niche, a spot that really does. I mean, you look at the successes that Amazon's had from fulfillment side, and Zappos has had from fulfillment side and customer service. And a lot of attempts were made online to do almost the same thing, but they never succeeded because oftentimes you really can't try on a shirt or a dress from a website. You have to do that in person. So you're focusing on in-store everything, aren't you?
Right, and in-store, and we also are doing consumer-facing apps for a number of our customers.
Yep.
So Guess Jeans, we're doing their Apple App Store application. Coach, we're doing their Apple App Store application, but we're also doing applications within the four walls of their business as well. So they've taken advantage of this platform that is supporting multiple use cases. They could have bought their App Store app from one vendor and had one server technology and managed that, and then their in-store technology from someone else. And what we've done is said, listen, we can provide you with a lot of the same componentry that's used for all your mobile and offer you the ability to, for better use of the word, untether from the back-end system that you may trade out tomorrow. So if tomorrow your ERP system, your POS system changes, the mobile layer, the interface to the customer on their consumer iPhone app or to the store associate on their store associate mobile device won't change at all.
So let me ask you just about some of the customers that you have. Did you find that that they came looking for an app? Some way to extend a brand like Guess, as you said, extend their brand into the mobile space.
Yes.
And did they, by the end of the conversation, realize that, we also have to enable our sales force and our staff in order to be able to use these devices to service the clientele better? Which came first for most of these guys? Was it the app, or was it the satisfying their own employees who are front-facing?
It depends on the customer. So in many cases, we get brought in and we're talking about, listen, we can build you. We have a customer. A big part of a store associate business and legacy, this 1.0 mobile I was talking about earlier, was inventory management.
Yes.
And most retailers have to do that. It's transfers of goods in, transfers of goods out, receiving, returns, very kind of boring
Yeah.
store associate stuff, but it's very important for a retailer to know what they have, what's been sold, what's their cycles and stock counts. And so a lot of times we've been brought in for those type of activities. But then when we're doing our capabilities presentation, we're saying, okay, but don't forget, when we do this, you also are buying the middleware, our technology, which can also power an iPad kiosk, or it could power a mobile point of sale. And so the lights go on in their eyes and say, gee, I didn't know. I assumed you just did these one things, because that's what they're used to.
Right.
So this is kind of but it's typically an app-based, we're looking for something, and then they go in and we say, oh, I didn't realize you do mobile point of sale. So we have a women's retailer in New York that started with a application for BlackBerries for their management. We're pushing out information about key performance indicators and business intelligence from a system they have. They want to be able to look it up on a BlackBerry. That middleware is the same thing that's going to power their mobile point of sale. And we're doing that, and we're also going to be doing one of their Apple iPhone apps for their consumers. So we start becoming the mobile enabler for the entire retail enterprise.
Yeah, you know, it's two questions on that. One of them, or maybe it's a statement on the first one, is that I think that when the executive level starts to ask for dashboards and you know, applications that provide their KPIs, these are the kind of things that that's the beginning engagement almost, right? Then they start to see how they can extend that down to their employees to help them do their jobs better. Ultimately, right. Isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and I find that quite a bit. It's the exec level that are demanding this information, but ultimately it's the staff, it's the team on the ground that are going to get the most benefit from this as they're servicing their customer base. My other question is really around the types of apps that they're coming to you for. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe go into a little bit of detail about, say, the Guess app. Is it a commerce-enabled app? Is it why don't you describe it for me? So
Guess's challenge, and there's been a case study and an article, and he's just been a speaker on this topic, is he has a variety of disparate back-end systems that do siloed pieces of functionality.
Sure. Yeah.
So a challenge a retailer has today is if you go in a store and you say, I like that shirt, but you don't have it in my size. A store associate is going to have to take you to the front of the store and look up in the cash POS terminal. They're probably going to have to kick someone off, look up or scan the product, the SKU code, and they may be able to tell you where they have inventory in their store. They might be able to tell you where you have an inventory in another store, but they probably are not going to tell you whether they have it in e-commerce and whether they can ship it to you directly, because those are disparate, siloed systems. And retailers have traditionally operated in that method so that there isn't a cross-channel type of overlap. So the customer doesn't have a great experience because they don't know if they're going to be able to, why can't you just ship it to me from the website? So those kinds of barriers are what people really want to break down, and mobile helps to do that. So for Guess, he wanted to be able to check people out faster and also do stock and product lookup.
Yep.
So during high season, during holiday, during the Christmas, Thanksgiving to Christmas period, he wanted to be able to, he typically would roll out additional cash registers, POS terminals.
Yep.
So you have to ship them, provision them, get them on the network, test them, and then use them for a couple of weeks, then box them up and ship them back. And so we're talking about taking an Apple, like you did see in the Apple store, same exact hardware, Apple iPod Touch with a sleeve, and for $600 he can roll that out versus several thousand.
Yeah.
And it will talk to not only the transaction of completing to his POS system, but it can also pull information out of other disparate systems. So now the store associate is working with someone, and they can be at a product. They say, oh, let me scan and see. Oh, we have 5 in the store down the street. Oh, but also, I can order this for you from the distribution center. Would you like me to do that? And we can just ship it to you.
Yeah. So that's pretty powerful.
It seems ridiculously simple. But that's my whole point, that there was this, that retail isn't new mobile is not new in retail, but the ability to do more with it hasn't really been present. So now a store associate is empowered to help the person without having to take them to the front of the store, so you don't lose as many sales. And the ROI, the benefit of upselling or preventing a walkout because you don't have it in stock is staggering. Yeah. I mean, the numbers are it's like if you have a 600 store chain, I forget that I've got some ROI numbers, 400 store chain, and you can say $40 a day, one transaction per day per store. It could be several $1 million in additional revenue.
It's incredible.
And the deployment costs to do it are not that hard. So there are other challenges operationally. How do you bag someone if you don't check them out? How do you take the tags off? But retailers are going to figure this out because it's important. It's important to their brand image. It's important to their workers. It's important to their customers, yes. And it's important to their bottom line or their top line revenue, generating and making sure they close that sale. And someone doesn't walk out saying, "Well, gee, I'm not going to go to another store. I wish, I'll go home on the website and look it up."
Yes, exactly.
It's a lost sale.
It's interesting. So much just came up out of that because my first question around retail is really about it's not a Luddite environment. I would say that retail really is it's a sophisticated sales environment, but it right. takes a lot of the complexity out, makes it simple for anybody to use. So, with that in mind, was the adoption high? Like, is the acceptance or the desire to move into mobile or to change the way they do things in the store, is that are most retailers accepted or receptive to that, or are they a little bit frightened about what's going on right now?
I think there's some early adopters for this mobile retail 2.0 I'm talking about. There are people that they know they need to do it, and they're the guys that are going to just hammer through any issues with their security team and their loss prevention team, worrying about how you're going to manage all this. They're going to get this stuff done. So there tends to be, I think, an early adoption phase of putting out new technologies in a new way in an industry that has not been very dynamic in terms of how they deploy technology. They use a lot of technology, but to be honest, there hasn't been a lot of change in a store layout, a store format, or even a store hardware. When you look at a POS terminal, you look at it and you say, why is that thing so big? And I still don't know the answer, but my point is, it is, I'd say it's still emerging, and then we're coming out of one of the probably worst retail buying periods in the last 20 years. They weren't buying the last couple of years. So I think we're going to start seeing the spending go up as the economy stabilizes and hopefully gain some momentum. And we'll see some more, hopefully, spending from retailers. But people are watching. They're sitting on the fence a little bit. They're doing tests. They're doing proof of concepts. They're doing pilots. They're doing labs because they're trying some new stuff. But we've got a number of retailers who are trying out little pilots, little proof of concepts, and are trying to test it to see what's going to really help them move the needle in terms of generating more revenue.
How can retailers leverage mobile to really augment revenue? Aside from having people walk out of the store because there isn't their product, I think one of the key things that I have noticed, especially as a consumer, is that anytime you can get my credit card or my debit card from me, take that opportunity. So, you said that you can't let a customer leave without offering a bunch of alternatives. But I've seen this. So get their credit card. Get them to buy something, even if you have to ship it to them. It doesn't matter. Just close that sale, which is one of the things that these mobile enables. What about bookstores? Like you have Barnes & Noble in the U.S. We have Chapters or Indigo up here in Canada. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that has been a challenge, I think, for them is that they get consumers walking into their stores, and because it's the old school style, people behind a bank of cash registers, like everywhere. Right. I walk in with my mobile device, and I use like Red Laser or the Amazon app, and I go up to a book, and I scan it and see where I can get the best price, and then I walk out. Right. So, I think that's a big challenge, especially when you're talking about many retailers because of the online world and bridging that gap, which people are so open to doing. Is there a way to combat that? I mean, Apple does it by having people wander around the store with a POS in their hand.
Right.
But I mean, is that an epidemic, or is this something that will pass at some point?
I think it's not going to pass. I think that what's happening is with the proliferation, as I mentioned earlier, of the smartphone, you're going to have those kind of apps. You're going to have consumers that are more savvy and more knowledgeable about the product, as well as competitive pricing, engines to search for that. And I think that's going to happen inevitably. And so there's really not much that they can do to combat that than to offer something else that generates interest in the customer, some value-added service that you're not going to get somewhere else, or provide a better store environment where if it's 50 cents more, am I going to really go down the street to buy it, or I'm sitting here, I'm going to buy it. So I think it's having better competitive knowledge and things of that sort. But I don't think there's any magic answer to that. I think this train has left the station. It's like the people are going to have this stuff and they're going to use it. Are they going to use it in other people's stores too? So is everyone going to become the lowest price store? I doubt it. But I think that there is definitely going to have to be other types of loyalty programs put in place, and people are doing it. Borders, you're talking about bookstores. Borders has a new loyalty program, relatively new,
right,
that's doing very well. So you're going to start seeing more and more of that type of support that will help augment that issue.
Yeah, and I guess the big thing is that if you don't capture the sale, if you don't have an answer for that consumer that's in the store about whether or not something's in stock and where they can get it, or that they can get it shipped directly, you've pretty much lost that sale for good, because they're going to go and find it somewhere else. So the goal is to capture it at the time, right?
Exactly. Or you want to capture it before their mind wanders onto the next thing,
Right.
Yeah, I like that sweater, I like that shirt, I like that book, but, I walked down the street and I forget that I even liked it, and I don't even remember where I saw it. Why isn't that from the sales associate saying, well, let me put it into your favorites in your e-commerce, so that we go to our store, you say, oh, there's that sweater I saw. It's in my basket already.
Yeah.
Or it's in my favorites, or it's pushed to my Facebook or my Twitter, or how do I make sure that we're top of mind when that person comes back to thinking about it?
It's funny because they're so small. These things seem so small, right? Little touches like that, where you take the onus off of the consumer for remembering these things,
right.
you put a service around it that actually forces almost them to remember, because when you walk into a Banana Republic or something like that, you've already assembled a shopping list, so to speak, because of all the other visits you've been, or maybe even the combination of online as well.
Right.
Why haven't people thought about this before? Or have they?
I think retailers and I think most industries, there's a company out there that is claiming that they're going to go to retailers and you'll be able to take your smartphone and actually buy without even having to go to the front. It'll integrate to the POS system. It'll do everything for you. I think it's a great idea. I think that retailers are still not there yet. So they're still trying to fix some of the other things first before you can give them great technology to do amazing things, but if they're still caught up trying to figure out how much stock they've got, they're not going to work on the icing before they build the cake. And so there's still that inventory management kind of drier stuff that drives a lot of, not revenue, but drives out expense, so brings up that profit number. And so knowing your inventory better, having real-time inventory, being able to fulfill back to a store when they were running out of something because you know the inventory, is still huge, and there's still a lot of opportunity to streamline the supply chain of a retailer. And so, there's only so many hours in the day, and the question is, what kind of fire do you have to put out? Now, the CIOs that we talk to are saying, their CEOs are coming down the hall and saying, when am I getting my Apple device in the store? But at the same time, they've got to figure out how to keep the systems up and running, and how to get their inventory system and their merchandising system working. And so there's a little bit of a buzz around some of this great new stuff, and I think it's all really cool stuff, but if the retailers aren't ready for it, they're not ready for it.
Yeah, and so on that note about whether or not retailers are ready for it, you know, I often find, especially when I mean, mobile is a consuming technology, right? It's
Yep.
going to, you know, it's going to knock out the middle ground on cameras. I mean, it's just going to start chomping down on a lot of pieces of the industry of our economy, and retail is one of them. Obviously, it's going to have an impact there. But I always run into this where I talk to somebody who's interested in mobile, but may not be up to date on mobile. So they look at it from the context of their existing business. So, for example, you mentioned it before about in the retail space. It's like, so how do you get that you know, anti-theft tag off, and how do you cut you know, cut the price, or how do you do all of these things? How do you bag it? Because I can picture, you know, a person with a small iPhone or iPod Touch with a you know, with a POS at the end, but like, you know, bags and ribbon and scissors and everything all around, like a Scotty vest full of stuff to be able
Right.
to not being able to move. But do you worry that that's old school thinking? You know, you're being pulled back by baggage from the way that it was, that everybody had everything behind a counter, and is that going to slow down you know, the progress,
Yeah.
or do you find that, look, you know what, people are just saying we're open to new ideas?
Well, you know, there's two different groups. So you got right there. You've talked to the store systems people. Then you've got the operations people who do the store layout and design.
Yes.
So you know that we've seen retailers with small mobile carts that they roll out so that they do have some of that equipment. I've seen people put more people behind the registers because there's actually enough room back there. And you know, taking credit card, that person's taking cash, but you squeeze more people into less space. If you think about a retailer, one of the things you got to keep in mind is they measure success by sales per square foot.
Right.
That's one of their key metrics. So if you can free up 18 or 12 square feet because of a register, that equates to a number, whether it's $65 a year annual per sales, whatever that number is, you can start really seeing that. So a mobile deployment that is changing the way a store associate does business will require working with the store design people, the store technology people, the human resources, the training people, because it's changing the way they do work.
Okay.
The technology part is actually probably the easiest part because they're used to making changes. The design team has to really kind of think a whole different way.
It's the human part that gets in the way.
Right, but I have retailers who are saying, I'm going to get rid of my cash registers.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep one for cash.
Yes.
Because everyone else is using plastic.
Yep.
Why have it? I can do it for a lot cheaper. It's faster than my old cash registers. Why would I do this anymore? So you're going to see some of these freestanding stores and mall-based stores, I think in the next year or so, where you're going to start seeing a serious decline in the number of registers as they figure out, how do I bag, how do I detag, how do I get it in and out?
So let me ask you a side question about this is, do cash register manufacturers see this coming? Do they know that this is impending, or are they getting involved in this, or are they going to wake up one day and say, what do you mean you only need one? I don't know if you have an answer to that, but
I haven't seen. I don't interact with them that much, so I don't know that I know an answer. I haven't. It's not something that I've seen. I haven't seen them wake up and say, "Oh my God, cash registers are going away."
Well, because what you just described, basically, if you're talking about the metric of dollar per square foot,
right,
and that's a huge metric, and empowering the staff, the employees, to close a deal on foot in front of the customer where the customer stands, instead of making them stand in line. And wait, then you know, and the corollary to that is that cash registers are going to go away, except for the cash transactions.
Right.
It's kind of like I think the writing's on the wall, wouldn't you say?
I think so, but I think there's still a lot of real estate on that screen. There are different apps on that screen, and so the question is, is it all stuff I'm going to do mobile? And I don't know that that's, it's a good story. It's a good vision. Like, woohoo, it's going to go away, but it isn't going to happen overnight.
No.
But there will be a change in some of the other technology. There are going to be some big changes. One of the changes worth highlighting as we talked earlier about trends, is that the point of sale system, which is actually a very complex system,
Yep.
Does taxation, it does returns, it does accounting, it does other things. They tend to be technologies that have been built upon, and are not necessarily the most nimble to do integration and customization to.
Sure.
So what we're seeing is retailers are increasingly frustrated with these old school POS systems. And what's happening is they really like their web commerce people, the guys that run their websites. And there's a lot of overlap, but not 100%. And we're seeing that a lot of the commerce companies, such as Demandware or ATG, are looking at, well, you know what? Maybe we're going to take the E off of e-commerce and just make it a web-based hosted commerce engine. So I think you're going to see more and more of that as well.
Like right up to the cloud.
Right up to the cloud, and just more flexible. They price differently, they charge differently, and it's a real opportunity to take a better architecture or a more open architecture approach that allows for more flexibility for a retailer to make changes. Whereas today, if they want to make a change to their current POS, it's a big change order, it costs lots of money, because they want to do something that is not part of the core system. The newer technologies are cheaper, quicker, faster to market to make changes.
It's pretty amazing. It's so disruptive. Up in Canada, in Toronto, actually, there's a company called FreshBooks. It's a completely web-based invoicing system that you can process everything from your credit card on the device. You can invoice. You can do all these things, all done by email. And I just, I wonder how long it's going to take for a company like that to appear for the consumer side of things, like any kind of retail outlet, where it's like dial tone. It's a service, like Salesforce.com is for sales management.
There's some companies out there already that are what would have been known as ASP or software as a service now, hosted POS systems. And I think you're going to see people more comfortable with that in the North American market, where I think they've been more comfortable with it in other markets, as a real alternative to buying expensive licenses and managing servers.
Wow, it seems so interesting, and I don't think that there's a business that it won't reach, especially when it comes to anywhere where people are standing in line. Right, this is where mobile can really be disruptive. Instead of standing in line at a Starbucks and you give me a free sample of your latest latte, caramel macchiato, whatever it's called, just take my order, take my money, and then let me get my coffee so I can go home. Right. So really, when you guys work, so when Global Bay goes into a company, are you selling? What are you selling? Are you selling efficiency? Are you selling more money per square foot? I mean, what's your metric for going into the retail establishments?
It depends on the use case. It depends on what they're trying to do. So we are working with a bookstore chain, and they've got a very inefficient process for shelving books. And if a book is not in the right place, and shipping the books and managing the whole flow. And if it's not in the right place, or it has to be shipped, unloaded at distribution, then reshipped back to the stores, it's a very inefficient process. And how can mobility help that? Inventory management affects the entire business. So when people say, well, at Coach, at Crocs, at Timberland, at Golfsmith, you've done inventory management. A couple of hundred stores, 500-600 stores. At Coach, 500 stores at Timberland, what's the ROI? The ROI is so huge, but it hits in places that we can't even track.
Right.
So mobility, the sexy stuff's kind of cool, but the meat and potato stuff really, really also can make a big impact. So sometimes it's ROI, sometimes it's top-line revenue, sometimes it's reducing costs and bringing up profitability. It really varies based on the use case. On the use case,
okay. So shift a little bit around to the consumer side. Is there, we've talked about some macro trends that are going on. I think that you didn't say this, but I'll paraphrase it in saying that this may or may not be the death of the cash register, so to speak.
Right.
But it's certainly on a decline. It's like laptops and maybe they were transient in nature to begin with, but certainly the size of them are gone. And I've talked to some companies who technology taps right into the POS systems at restaurants so that they can pay their bills without handing over a credit card, right? So I guess the next step in mobile is to not only allow me to come in and interact with somebody who's got one of these devices attached to their POS system, but is to, pre-order, so to speak, fulfill, and then pay without handing over any credit cards just because I'm in the store, with near-field communication, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. There's going to be near-field communication. There's going to be Bluetooth communication. There's going to be ways to make payments. If you think about paper-based cash, it's inherently just a ridiculous concept. I mean, think about the fact I got to carry this stuff. It just doesn't make sense in this day and age, other than to support illegal activities. But we won't go there. But right. my point is there's going to be a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it's really, really cool. But you have to think big retailers are still focused on fixing some of the basic problems before they go out and try to necessarily do really cutting edge stuff. And that's why we do a little bit of both. Our inventory management, our task management, our systems that are just inherently needed in retail, as opposed to, well, wouldn't it be cool if someone could do this in my store? Yeah. So we get a little bit of both, but you got to remember that completing a sale and having my phone pass data into, over wireless to my point of sale system is something that is being tried, but I don't think it's going to be huge numbers to start. In the same way, I don't think people are going to buy on smartphones significantly for a while.
Right.
I think that you're going to see some quick hits, but it's going to take a little bit of a while before true m-commerce happens. But those apps can provide information, drive people to the stores, help the business. And like having a website, I think my CEO had a byline. It's like you're going to have a mobile app. You got to have a mobile strategy. It's not like the web was. Like I said, you got to have it. It's not an option anymore. It's not like, oh, smarter retailers really should do mobile. It's like, how much mobile should they be doing?
And it's a really good point. Is that can retailers succeed, or can they survive without leveraging mobile? And is this accessible? Should this be accessible? Should smaller retail outlets, if you're a one-person confectionery or a one-person, a one-store, you only have one location. What happens to these guys? Should everybody be using mobile in some way?
I think that there will be a software as a service, self-managing option. I'm starting to see some of those that plug into Intuit. They're coming. But right now we're focused on retailers that have, let's say, at a minimum 50 to 75 stores. That can pay for the costs of the devices and the integration and what has to be done. But ultimately, on the App Store, you'll see, whether it be on the Android App Store, the BlackBerry App Store, the Apple App Store, you're going to see a POS in a box where I can upload my stuff, I can say what state I'm in, I can configure it, and then I can run a mobile POS at a cost-effective way on a transaction basis or on a monthly basis or on a one-time license fee.
Yeah, so you take the PayPal approach to credit card transactions, you put it into the retail space where you're skimming a little bit off the top. It just seems so interesting that that all of a sudden, like what was a specialty before becomes a commodity now, and now it's about making sure that you can service the customer. Back to that whole thing again, right?
Right.
I mean, Sam Walton, I think, was famous at this, is that he was on the floor all the time talking to customers, and we kind of got away from that because we put the cash registers in the back of the store as a sales mechanism to get you to go through the store to see what else you might buy, right? And I think this even disrupts it a little bit more, is because walk into any consumer establishment and what's next to the cash. I mean those quick sale items, and what happens to those, and we have to rearrange the way that we display product. This is just the beginning of all of this, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, that's pretty amazing, right? That's so disruptive, because you take the cash registers away from the back of the back of the stores, and everything changes. Like the flow of the store changes.
Absolutely. And the interaction changes. A store associate is now walking around and talking to the customers and engaging them. I think that's important. Now, the other trend that we see, I think, is that there are siloed repositories of customer information. So I know that you shop on the website. I know that you shop in the store. I know that you might actually do research on your smartphone. But when I walk in the store, chances are they're not going to know my buying history from the e-commerce engine because it doesn't talk to the POS engine.
Right.
So a store associate walks up and says, "Oh, Billy Bob, I see you bought these things." Chances are they don't know everything that Billy Bob's done or even what promotions are available to him because some of them are web promotions.
Right.
Those are the things that I think are going to change in the next year and a half, 2 years.
So now let's talk about, a last little segment here about the impact of these changes. Because, I think about a lot of things. So certainly cash, we're seeing that now, where cash might be it's not disappearing. It's not going to go away in a short period of time. But eventually, maybe paper cash will disappear and we'll be doing transactions electronically, everything. But what about how does mobile play on? We talked about profitability because you can broaden the store, you can get more dollars per square foot or more square feet per dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But what about consumer expectations? We've got this weird thing now, which is happening, especially for the early adopters, which are coupons, check-in technology. People are getting rewarded just for walking into a Gap. They get a free pair of jeans.
Sure.
How is this going to play out in terms of our expectation on pricing, our expectation on the impact that mobile is going to have on not just pricing, but customer experience expectations. And inventory is a big one because I expect everything to be in stock wherever I am, regardless, because of the web generation expects that because of what's available online.
Sure.
It's a broad picture, but can you give us a scope of what you see coming down the road with this?
I think coming down the road with this, holistically, I think that mobile is going to help enable a lot of these things we're talking about. And also, we're helping to breathe life into their old systems. We're extending out the data to the store associate. We're pulling data from disparate sources into one interface. We can help bridge that gap as those technologies emerge.
Yep.
I think as the devices get better and as retailers realize it is a core part of what they should have as part of their technology stack, I think you're going to see more of that. We have a customer, Things Remembered, which is a big engraving store. And they are, right now you go in, you say, I'm going to take this cup and I want to put a message on it. You go to a book of suggestions. It's a big plastic-bound book, big binder by section, and and what we've done is converted that to an iPad application where instead of me going through this binder and then calculating on a piece of paper and then going to the back of the store to have it engraved, I'm picking my messages. It's calculating my totals. It's showing me what it will look like on the screen, and then ultimately it'll go into the POS terminal. So I don't have to even write this thing up. So you've gone from such a challenging process, and not a very, it's
time wasting. Yeah,
it's time consuming and it's old technology. This is something that could change the whole image of the company. And so, even if it does, it's like having a new light fixture or a new look and feel for your store. You just need to have this technology because it's better.
Yeah.
It reduces errors, it upsells, it does all these things that you can't do. And I think you're going to see more and more of those kinds of things that a lot of them will generate revenue, reduce costs, and some of them will just be, I've got to have it, because everyone's expecting that they should be able to go to a kiosk and hit our website. Yeah. I have another customer who told me that every email address is worth about $85 to them.
Wow.
It's huge. So how do I collect more email addresses for customers? So there's going to be those kinds of things that do drive tangible revenue, and there can be some that are just, it may not really sell more engraving, but am I going to go back to a plastic binder?
Exactly.
I don't think so. So, it's part of it is I need to have it, part of it is I should have it, and part of it is that I'm going to have it because you got to have it just it's got to have everyone's got to have it.
So if you were to think, Harlan, what is it that gets you so excited about what you're seeing in this industry? If you could finish off with just kind of thinking about, what are you jazzed about when it comes to mobile and retail, and based on what you're seeing out there?
I just think there's so much opportunity to improve from this older mobile technology or no mobile technology, and to empower the sales associates and to make their operations work better. I think there's a huge opportunity for that. And to me, it's interesting to go into a customer, walk through the issues, and say, hey, if you thought about doing this way, and we can do this with mobile, and you're not doing it on mobile now, but would you consider doing it? Those are the kinds of conversations that are really exciting. I think we're just at the very beginning of this. The ramp up is going to be much, much bigger, I think, in the second and third quarter this year, where retailers have money to spend, and they want to do the new stuff, and their CIOs are saying, look, Apple's doing it, or Nordstrom's are doing it, Macy's are doing it, or someone's got these technologies, when are we getting it? So I think you're going to see a lot of, we have to play catch up.
Now, do you think that is Apple leading the way with this kind of technology right now, the way that they've structured their Apple stores? So, it's almost an inconvenience to pay cash right now. Yeah,
it's a very good point. Apple is so we're working as closely as possible with Apple. We're not focused on helping other retailers because that's not been their business model. They're focused on the consumer market.
Right.
That's changing to some extent. They're adding more people. I think that you're going to see some Android devices come in the next year that are compelling, that are cost effective, and that will, I think, add some more fuel to the fire. But Apple is doing such a phenomenal job with it that everyone's really looking at it as the benchmark.
As the benchmark. Well, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen here. But I think long term. But if you think about what really the path that we're on, it's pretty clear. That the impact that mobile is going to have on the retail industry, not just from a pricing perspective, as I said, scanning product and getting the best deal, but really from an experience inside the store. It's all going to change, and it's not going to be overnight, but we're starting to see those steps right now, aren't we? And my hope is that 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road, we're starting to see the spending that's going to impact this, because it's an industry in need of an overhaul, as you said. And they're probably the best suited to really adapt to the mobile space than anything else, because of we've been buying from e-commerce sites for 10 years now. So they got to learn some lessons from what's going on the web and translating that to making sure that you can do something like that in store. For example, if I'm in the store and you have my history, you should be making recommendations based on my history of like they do on the web right now. Like, if you like this, well, you might like this.
Right. So we've got a retailer right now that's very high-end women's fashion. They were doing an application where they're pulling information out of their POS terminal. You walk in the store, I look you up. I could have done that at the register, but that's very kludgy. Yeah. I'm on an iPad. And also it's pulling from e-commerce what you bought, because I can identify you there, and it tells me what promotions you're eligible for based upon what was emailed to you. So now you walk in and I can say, okay, here's what you bought. These are the 3 things. I think you tend to like these things. Let me show you this. And you're given a much better customer experience. And
it's just much more natural on a handheld device than to bring the person back to a cash register and punch it in through there.
Absolutely.
It's one-on-one. So listen, Harlan, I really appreciate you doing this with us. It's been enlightening. Hopefully you who are watching and listening to this have found something in here that will spark an interest in the way that you're doing business with mobile, and maybe look up Global Bay. Where can people find more information about you guys?
At the globalbay.com website, and also on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, so if you go into YouTube and type Global Bay Mobile or GB Mobile, there are about 40 different short videos on all of our different platforms and all of our different applications that show the use cases for mobile point of sale, task management, inventory management on Motorola, rugged devices on Apple, and you guys can see for yourself how these things really work, as opposed to going to a website with more static content. But we have a phenomenal success rate at getting attention to our YouTube channel.
That's great. Well, I've been speaking with Harlan Eplan, who is the Vice President of Business Development for Global Bay Mobile. I really appreciate your time here, Harlan.
My pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you so much for doing this.
I look forward to coming back.
You'll get back here. I'd love to have it. 6 months from now, we'll see how things are different. And if cash registers disappear, you heard it right here first from Harlan.
Walking dinosaurs. Thanks.
That's right. Thank you, Harlan. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.